I mean, it's true. Well, most people love me. Most people knew me for this great, wonderful person that I was, Lucifer Star. Things like the sexton, the first clocks, I mean, gears and all that other stuff. Like, I invented a lot of that stuff. I was the one who, there were no chevron gears. There were no, like, Z gears or anything else like that. And I had people trying the different gear types, like a Z gear and a chevron gear and stuff like that. Not just like the star gears. We also did star gears too. When we used to use wood, we would do star gears because wood needs a big, wood's not very strong, so it needs a good grip, or else it'll start to it'll break off. It'll break the edge off. So it has to be kind of like a rolled, or kind of a, has to be an interesting kind of shape, for the gears to work with wood. We used to do wooden gears all the time, made out of hardwood, ironwood, and stuff like that. And like I said, a long time ago, there used to be this way. What they would do is they would use zinc, and they would use lead, and they would heat it up, and they would dip the wooden gears into the hot zinc and hot lead. And what it would do is it would soak into the wood, and what you would get, actually, I think they used to do this with pine too. You take zinc and lead and you mix it together, and you get it all nice and boiling hot, and then you take the wooden gears, and you take those wooden gears and you dip them in the hot molten zinc and lead, and what it does is it soaks up into the wood. And I forget what you use. I think you use oil or something. Like first you soak the gears. Well, you soak the gears in some kind of chemical, the wood in some kind of chemical. And then what you do is you take those wooden gears, and you take them and you dip them in the zinc and lead or something like that. I forget. Maybe it's zinc and then lead. Yeah, maybe you dip them in zinc, and then you take them and you dip them in molten lead, and then you pull the wooden gears out of that, and then it hardens. And what you get is something slightly harder than wood, and it's a perfectly good gear issue. I mean, a perfectly good gear setup. It's I forget, it's zinc or lead or some sort of mixture, and I think you can do this with softwood. You take the pine and you dip it in that, and it makes pretty good gears. We did a lot of semi dipping, semi stuff where we dip it in the other stuff, and then once it cooled, and I don't know if you can add brass to it or what. It can't be too. It has to be kind of like a softer kind of metal. But what you'd get though is a gear or a piece of wood that's actually resembles like a hardwood or something like that. I don't know. It was something that we were doing back in the old days, back in the Roman days, you might say, and and we do all kinds of lead and zinc stuff where we could actually make wooden engines actually run pretty good just from that. The only problem is if you got them too hot, they would it'd start to burn the lead and zinc, and then that would put in the air, and then you're contaminating the air with heavy metals. So anyway, and the real problem was in the old days. Sometimes they would take these old gears and they'd throw them in the fire, and then heavy metal poisoning. Yeah, from the smoke. Yeah, so there's a problem. Anyway, you can't burn the gears. You have to, and there's nothing you can do with the wood. It's basically heavy metal forever, contaminated. Anyway, but yeah, we used to do that a lot back in the old days. Anyway, we did a lot of things, but most people loved me. Most people adored me because I was their savior. I was the person that helped them with science. I was the person who funded them. I was the person who provided food for them. My farms, there's many farmers that love me because when they ran out of seed or something like that, or they couldn't make ends meet at the end of the month, they could always count on my seed stores, because my seed was always going bad. My seed was always going bad. But I mean, I always had extra seed, and after my farms were planted, I'd be like, okay, well, for the rest. So my farms always had extra. And that's partly how we were just giving out extra hay, extra grain. The we would just subsidize the farmers, or take the extra and give it to other people. Use grind up the hay or something like that. Use it for feed for animals, or do something with it. Kind of like recycling. So most people loved Lucifer Star. I hated that some people began to fear me. I mean, only the bad people, only the really horrible people actually feared me, because I mean, I was for truth and justice and love and kindness. I mean, women adored me because, I lavished beautiful clothing on them, silk cloth underwear. I mean, a lot of women got silk underwear because, well, it chased otherwise, and stuff like that. I mean, many people love me because, silk underwear and this and that, and it just, and I really cared about women. I really adored them. And I had a lot of funding for them. I mean, because before, in the old days, women were actually looked down upon, and women were just like these things that they weren't really taken care of. They weren't adored like they should be, and they were like, sex slaves and basically like servants to the male population for a while. And I was like, no, 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 no. I mean, so I was, like I say, I mean, it was really me. I mean, a lot of women also championed on my behalf too, but I mean, I cared about them a lot. Things like pads and stuff like that, silly things. I was the one that was funding them, and I, lavishing all the jewels and diamonds on them and stuff like that. I really cared, and like that one girl that got killed with the necklace on, and they dug back up. I mean, I was like, if she needs money, I mean, if she really needed the necklace that badly, it's fine. I'll buy the necklace back from her. I don't really care. I just wanted, it's just like a one of a kind kind of thing, and then we find out the girl's dead, and they're like, we have the necklace, and I was like, I don't give a necklace. What happened to the girl? Huh? And that's when they had to kind of tell me. Well, they said the girl ran off at first, and then it wasn't until years later that I found out the girl was dead, and they actually had to dig her back up. Somebody else told me on news or something like that, one of these shows. Anyway, I mean, I'm the owner of Germany and America, so most people love me. I provided the beautiful, wonderful countries for them, and the games for them, the video games and stuff like that. Connection and cell phones and cameras, and I made their life wonderful. So most people adored me. Most people praised me as their savior, as their benefactor. And only a few people who were really, 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 really bad actually feared me. But no, most people loved me, like the Irish and other people. They would always toast to have a drink to Lucifer Star. Anyway, yeah, Lucifer White Star. So anyway, yeah, I mean, I get down on certain people, but that's because they did so much horrible bad stuff. I mean, most people I loved and adored. I loved the little children, and I loved the orphans, and I loved, I was vastly kind and vastly, I love that people saw my aircraft come to their rescue, and like my ships would show up after a storm and provide aid and care, and the people were like, where did you come from? Well, we heard that there was a problem. And a lot of times it'd be like, no charge, don't worry about it. I was paying my people, out of my taxes, and I mean, there's plenty of money and plenty of everything. So like, a lot of times it was like, no charge, we'll just rebuild the city. I mean, we were in the city building business anyway. We could put up a city like that. So that was Lucifer Star. That was, I was providing 100 new homes a day down in Israel and these other places. So, mass production was our thing. Build them fast, build them cheap, or at least, mostly just fast, because we had to build 100 new homes a day was what we needed to do. Now that's a lot of houses a day to keep up with the children and everything else, the big families. And I think we did all right. You know, it was Germany and also China had a lot of houses to build.